Quentin Tarantino, so much to talk about. Haven't seen this man since 2015 because he's busy, I'm busy, and I assume Quentin, it's just what life gets in the way of us seeing one another. Is that it?
That's exactly it. There was actually absolutely no reason for me to be gone this long. It just happened.
It happened, and I welcome you here. Congratulations on the new book.
Thank you, mate.
We were having the debate all morning. What is the best Quentin Tarantino movie? Do you think like that? Do you look back on your career and say, this is the defining movie of my life? It's the best I did.
For years, people used to ask me stuff like that, and then I would usually say something, well, they're all like my children, and da-da-da-da-da-da. Then I would change it to, well, it kind of depends on when you ask me. If you ask me 1 year or one moment, I could say, oh, Kill Bill. Another one, I could say something else. But I really do think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is my best movie.
Right. Gee, it's, I didn't pull that up as your best because I find it, I find it almost impossible. Mm-hmm. I'm amazed by you because, and I always have been, and I'm glad you wrote this book because you talk about your film writing process, which I'm always curious about. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there's a lot of directors out there who write their own material. It's like I admire the Beatles because they write their material. I'm talking about Bruce Springsteen nonstop because I'm amazed how many great songs this guy wrote. Most directors, they don't write the script and they don't come up with the story. They get it from somewhere else, right?
Yeah, well, I think there's a few directors, all right, that write their own stuff. But there's directors who are hired to do stuff and then they take it and they turn it into what they want to do. And then there's directors that write stuff for themselves to do. So they have something to do. And then there's writer-directors. And that's where I am.
And you've said it, that you consider yourself a writer first or director second, but it's almost like you pulled a smart move. When you're a guy and you're not in show business and you're like, I'm trying to figure out how to get into show business, in a way you say, I know what I'll do if I write my own movie. It's like when Sylvester Stallone wrote Rocky, they wanted somebody else to star in it. He goes, fuck you, I'm not giving you the script unless you put me in it.
Yeah.
That was your thought. Like, if I can write a great piece of material, then I get to be a director.
Yeah, well, I knew that at a certain point that if I could write, especially like a low-budget movie like Reservoir Dogs, if I could write something that was just so good that a little company go, oh no, we're going to make this. We're going to do this. And well, you have to take me. You have to take me in with it, and you have to take me not begrudgingly. And by the way, my partner at the time, Lawrence Bender, even set it up where it was like, now look, Quentin's going to direct this thing. So don't even have a meeting with us. Don't waste our time unless you've already swallowed that pill. Now, he can come to the meeting and you can go like, I'm not going to make a movie with that asshole. All right, that's okay. All right, but don't try to talk him into anything. We'll just leave.
Wow, how ballsy! Because when you're a guy and you're broke, you didn't come from money.
No.
And you finally write something like Reservoir Dogs where people are interested in it. The temptation is to say, you know what, I'm not going to be an asshole. Let somebody else direct this. I got to sell this script. I want to eat. I want to get into this business.
I had already done that with my script for True Romance. That was my first script. So that's the route I went with True Romance.
Right.
And Reservoir Dogs like, okay, no. This is the one. This is definitely the one.
Were there studios who said to you, "We love your script, but we're not going to let you direct it"? Were they like, "Hey, fuck you, we're gonna just pass on this"?
Well, there were no studios involved with Reservoir Dogs at all. All right, it's like independent straight to video companies. They were the people talking to us. But it was also kind of a situation because I had actually just sold True Romance, so if need be, I could have made Reservoir Dogs like on 16 millimeter for $30,000. I had never had that much money in my life, so I had that. Now, it probably wouldn't have been in a big ass warehouse like it was. It probably would have been in like some muffler shop or some tune-up masters or something where the whole thing would be taking place, and it wouldn't be Harvey Keitel and Tim Roth, horsing around. It would have been some of my friends, but it still would have been a pretty good movie. We had gone on the film festival circuit. So when I would go I had a movie as far as I was concerned. Now, if you want to give me more money to make the movie I want to make, well, that's all the better. But I don't need you to make my dream come true. And so people would come in and they would have like different ideas and like, well, how about this? How about that? How about this? How about that? And I'd listen to them and finally I'd say like, just doesn't look like we're kind of on the same page. Okay, well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, but bye-bye. And we just get up and leave.
the part of your, brilliance, the early part I don't get is, were you the type of kid, I know you went to movies and I know you went with your mom and you cover that, but were you the type of kid in school who was well-read? You read a ton of books. I mean, you're a writer.
Yeah.
But I don't get the sense that, yes, you saw a lot of movies.
Yeah.
And that's all in your brain. But I don't get the sense that you were this student who wrote all the time and, read a lot of literature or were a top-notch kind of valedictorian type, right? That wasn't you.
No, the interesting deal about that was, one, I was a terrible student, all right? I hated school and checked out. However,
why do you think you hated school? Because you're such an inquisitive guy. You're such a bright guy.
I don't know. Frankly, I don't know why I hated school back then. Because like right now, I could go to school. I could go to take a class and go there every week and probably really enjoy it, or go there twice a week and really enjoy it. I think it was because I had to go. And also it was one of those things where, especially when I was younger, if I wasn't good at something fairly right away, then I just kind of lost interest in it. And I didn't even have like the wherewithal to do just good enough. I just checked out. But the weird part about it though was, while I was this terrible student and got really bad grades, I was reading at an adult level at when I was just being a little boy. I mean, like at 10, I was reading at an adult level. And
in other words, they tested you and they felt you had...
I'd pick up my mom's paperbacks and like read them.
Right. So you did read a lot.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was what I did. I did read a lot. I was a better reader than most of the other kids, like in third grade or, fourth grade or something. And I'm reading adult books. And not only that, and the other subject, unless you had a boring teacher, the other subject that I was really, really good at was history. Now,
that makes sense.
If it was about what date did this happen? What date did that happen? Okay, well, I don't give a damn about that. But to me, history was storytelling. And I'd seen movies, all right? So actually, frankly, part of the thing when I'd be sitting in a history class hearing stories, I was trying to see, hey, do they have a story that I haven't seen a movie of? Maybe I can make a movie of that.
Yeah.
Because I see a movie, like there was this movie called The Last Valley with Michael Caine and Omar Sharif, and that was all about the Black Plague. So now I was all of a sudden really interested in what about the Black Plague. And then, I see some boring movie like Nicholas in Alexandria. All right. Well, now I had a idea about Russia at that time. And but I remember,
right. Because you couldn't write Inglourious Bastards unless you had a complete appreciation for what went down in World War II. I mean, you have to understand that. You can't create an alternate reality without knowing reality.
But I remember there was a kid, he was like one of those genius kids that was in the class, and his name was Mike Gallo. And he did he did two things, I remember. He did a giant book report on the Donner Party. And this whole kind of explained the whole story of the Donner Party. And then I'm listening to that and I go, wow, that would make a really groovy movie, man. and then in our history class, my teacher went on for like about 2 weeks, teaching us about Cortez and Montezuma, Cortez and the Aztecs. And I was like, whoa, I'll watch that movie. That sounds fucking awesome.
Right. You looked at the history class as like, well, this is a great brainstorming session for movies.
Yeah. It was they were, my history teacher was was my development executive.
Wow. That is a really interesting way to look at history. Yeah, now I get that. You know, I was that whole story that came out about your mom, and you spend a lot of time talking about your mom, at least the chapter that, you know, it was such an odd childhood that you had that, you know, father not around, but your mom being a single woman, and then you had a stepfather, and then you didn't have a stepfather. And then she dated a lot of famous guys like Will Chamberlain.
Yeah,
and,
Happy Hairston,
Yeah, basketball. She must have been a stunning looking woman.
She's really good looking. She was really, really good looking, yeah.
Yeah, and in a way, having a really, really
and she was really young, too.
Yeah, and having a really, really good-looking mother like that, and she's dating a lot of guys, it's got to be weird for a little kid, right? I mean, it's just...
No, I was always really proud that, you know, my mom was prettier than all the other moms in school. You know, I'd see all the other moms in school, and, you know, they looked like, you know, old ladies selling flour on TV commercials, all right? And my mom would come in with hot pants and long, straight black hair down to her ass, all right? And some, like, Levi jacket, you know?
Was it weird when she was dating, like, Wilt Chamberlain, arguably one of the greatest basketball players of all time and one of the most... I mean, it's almost like you were exposed to fame.
Yeah, well, I was never exposed to it. I never met him or anything. You know, it's not like he came over to the house and we watched Three's Company together. No, he didn't have to deal with the whole, you know, boy at home shit. All right, you know, but I knew it. I knew she was doing it, and I thought that was really groovy. I thought that was groovy. That would be like your mom's dating Muhammad Ali, or your mom's dating Joe Namath. Yeah.
But does it in a way, like, you know, you sometimes talk about fame. A lot of people don't make it because they don't believe that they could be part of a show business world. It just seems unobtainable, and people like us don't become famous. But when you see your mother so close to fame, maybe in a way it inspired you to say, you know, it's not that unobtainable. I could become a famous film director. I don't know.
I think that's like one removed from the Grand Canyon kind of way. Because I knew I was going to be a basketball player. All right. But I do know what you mean. I don't know if that applies. Because, I mean, that's one of the reasons I actually think that, aside from just normal nepotism or whatever, one of the reasons that the kids of movie stars do so well in acting careers, because it's not pie in the sky for them. You know, a guy comes in or a girl comes in from Cleveland or from St. Louis or from Alaska, you know, to a Los Angeles or New York to make it as an actor. You know, they're willing themselves here, but it's all a big fantasy as far as they're concerned. Right. You know, but like, you know, the daughter of a famous actress, the daughter of a famous actor. No. This could happen. This could not happen, but this is a legitimate business. Not only is this a legitimate business, this is the family business.
Right.
It's tangible. This is a job. This could work out.
Right.
Nobody coming off the bus thinks, they hope it could work out. But they're really, they're swinging for the bleachers.
Yeah, I remember telling my father, I'm going to be on the radio. And he goes, you're an idiot. You don't speak properly. You're a moron. You don't read the newspaper. You're not going to be on the radio. I know people on the radio. You're not one of them. I mean, you know, it was debilitating, and I believed him.
Well, by the way, you're so good on the radio. Forget about the fact that you're a legend. When I was in the break room, you've talked me into buying a pair of Muggs jeans.
Yeah. Oh, and you're going to look sexy in those. Muggsy. Yes, Muggsy jeans.
Muggsy jeans. You sold me with your ad read.
You know, I read this thing about you being on a podcast and you were talking about your mom and you made a statement. And I relate to you this way. Mm-hmm. You said, you know what, my mother, when I used to write little screenplays and things when I was a kid and I dreamt of being a screenwriter and director. Yeah. My mother was brutal about it. Stop writing. You're going to flunk school. All you do is write screenplays all day. And she was not supportive. In a way, I understand it. I accepted that from my father. I think my father was like, you know what? You're not going to have a career, and you're going to be, you're going to not have any money, and you're not going to be able to support you. You're going to be a bum. I think your mother was coming from the same place. She's like, you better pay attention in school, genius, because these little fucking things. But you, like me, you hold on to that, and you say, fuck it. Well, I am not going to give my mother the big house. I'm not going to give my mother, because she was downright mean about it.
Well, okay. She was like, I don't want to roll over on her because I said that thing there and it was meant it's true, but I meant it in levity. It was a long time ago, and then all of a sudden.
Have you since bought her the house?
No, I haven't bought her the house, but
right.
But everyone, but I felt bad that all the internet rolled over on her.
Yeah, well, I didn't. I was like, you don't get to get a house. Fuck you. I was too generous with my father sometimes. I thought.
But the situation was, I started writing like little scripts in school, and so I'm kind of doing.
Do you
that.
have those?
No, I don't. I have some stuff going way far back, but not to like 13. All right. I maybe have some of my writing at 18 or 19 or something. But
why'd you save it? Is it good?
I don't know what I'm doing, but the dialogue is still there.
Right.
The dialogue is still kind of punchy and is still kind of there. And I don't really have any stories to tell. I have nothing to say. All right. But the dialogue is there. Probably like a good stand-up comedian at the beginning. They don't have anything to say, but they do have a sense of humor. They just they just haven't lived enough life to talk about anything worth talking about. But
that's so interesting because that reminds me. I just did this interview with Bruce Springsteen, and he said, I haven't written a new album in a while. I go, why is that? He goes, I have nothing to say right now.
Yeah.
I have nothing to say. And it's true. It's like we think these movies. I was fascinated by your process. You've said, I'll lay in a pool.
Yeah.
And that reminds me, like Einstein used to shower and get his best ideas. You had Willie Nelson, who was on my show, said, I'd go for a drive. And my mind would tune out. And all of a sudden, I'd have a song in my head. And that song became, a big hit song.
Yeah, and then he gets home and then starts working it out on the guitar. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the same with you. You're laying in a pool, perhaps, where you're most relaxed.
Yeah.
And you're daydreaming.
Yeah.
And you say the opening scene to the movie.
Yeah.
And that's why you've said my opening scenes are always my best, because that's what gets me going. If I see a great opening scene in my mind, then I know I'm on to something. So what's the next step? Let's say you have the opening scene to Pulp Fiction, and it's in your head. Do you then go out of that pool and you rush to some room and start writing in longhand your script idea?
Well, Pulp Fiction is probably the one that doesn't quite apply because the opening scene is such a non sequitur to the rest of the movie. So in that one, I already, I had the idea. It kind of changed drastically from the time I got from the page one to the last page. But I had this idea that there would be these three separate stories, and then this would sort of be this weird introduction that we would lose for a while, and then get back to Pumpkin and Honey Bunny later. So that was one that I kind of had the structure more or less worked out, or at least I thought I did. And but it's more about the idea that I come up with a story. Okay, say Django is a good example. Django's a good example because I was in I was doing press for Inglourious Bastards in Japan, and I was hipped to that there was this magnificent store in Tokyo that sold soundtracks. And they had a lot of great spaghetti western soundtracks. So I went down to this store and it was all all CDs. And man, they had spaghetti western soundtracks that you just couldn't get in America. I couldn't believe it. And so, and they had record albums. I just bought so much. I just looked like a rich asshole. All right.
But what a weird little store, huh?
Yeah,
Like what?
I was jam packed too,
Yeah.
And so a stack of records this big and 2 bags of CDs. And so I get back to my hotel room and I've had like a day off. I did it on my day off. And I'm just luxuriating in all this like Morricone, Louise Bacalov spaghetti western music. And it's just so great or whatever. And I've been having the idea for Django for a while. And then all of a sudden, it's like after listening to this stuff like for hours, I kind of sat down And I didn't even have my notebook with me, which I normally have, like a writing notebook with me. So I just took the stationery from the hotel room.
Does that drive you crazy that you don't have your writing book with you? Why wouldn't you bring your writing book with you?
I don't know. I always have it with me.
What is the writing book? Is it a special kind of paper?
No. It's just a Mead notebook. You know, a ring binder notebook, you know.
That's it.
Yeah. And you work the page, whoosh.
Special pen or just?
Well, I always have a handful of black felt pens and a handful of red felt pens. And
why? Why black and red?
I don't know. It's just I'll write for a while in black, and then all of a sudden I get bored, and then I switch to red.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
And so I didn't even have those with me. So I had the pen that's on the little desk in the room, and then I had the stationery from the hotel, and then I sat down, and then out came that opening scene in Django, where, you know, the slaves are being led on the chain gang, and then Dr. Schultz with his wagon with the tooth going back and forth comes riding up, and then they had the whole encounter, and then I wrote the scene, and it's pretty much what's in the movie. And when I finished, I go, okay, I guess this is what I'm doing now.
When you see that in your head, you don't see Jamie Foxx necessarily. No. You don't see the actor.
I did see Christoph. I had just worked with him. So yeah, it wasn't by accident that the dentist happened to be German. So I was writing. Just writing for Django, not for an actor. But for Dr. Schultz, I was writing for Christoph.
How do you know it's a good idea? In the sense that, and this is the same I ask musicians, it's like you could be laughed out of the theater, out of the business if you come up with just a dopey idea that's just ridiculously stupid. How do you know when it's a home run?
Well, I think there's two answers to that question. I mean, one, I'm a pretty good storyteller, so I don't think my stories are dopey or, you know, they might, they all sound, even something like Inglourious Basterds is fairly plausible, all right, the way I tell the story. But how I know it's good is when I write a scene, I'm so excited about it. I can't wait for people to read it. I can't wait for it to get out. People are going to love this. This is what I think. And then usually, I'll call up a couple of friends on the phone. I go, hey, can I just read you this scene that I wrote? You know? And they go, yeah,
Who do you call? Why am I not one of those people? Who do you call when Quentin Tarantino goes, man, I'm onto something, but I just want to read this to someone? Who do you call? Another director?
I call Eli Roth. Okay. Or one of my old producers, Stacey Scher. I would call her. I have a friend named another filmmaker, Ree Rasmussen. Or there's maybe about 4 or 5 people. You know that
Are people honest with you? Does anyone ever say to you, Quentin, this is terrible. I don't get it.
Well, I don't read them terrible scenes, you know.
Right.
Now, understand, it's really interesting because, look, obviously the reason I'm reading it to them is I want them to go, wow, that was really great. And I'm listening for laughs and stuff like that. But the truth of the matter is, I don't really want a lot of comments back from them, unless they're positive. The point of reading it to them is for me to hear it through their ears. Okay. I can walk up and down my room and read it 6 times in a row, but it still seems like an echo chamber. I'm just kind of getting the timing of it right. I'm figuring out the timing of it. But when I read it to them, I become them. I hear it through their ears.
That makes total sense to me. And really what you're doing is, rather than just reading it out loud in your room, which isn't the same, you need some sort of audience. And then you say it out loud, and then you go, oh, okay, yeah, this sounds real, this sounds good.
Yeah, now all of a sudden I'm not just reading it in the room. Now I'm performing it. Now I'm leaning into the jokes. Now I'm, oh no, here's the punchline coming up here. I got a boom.
Wow. Do you don't have any interest in writing with someone else, right? In other words, it's a lonely experience, but it's not torturous, you say, for you. It's
no. I have a ball. I have a ball. I mean, I'm always writing something just because it's just a fun thing for me to do.
Is it a ritual with you? Is it like I have to wake up at this and this time? I have to drink a cup of tea. I have to have my cereal, and is it a ritual that's a pleasant ritual that you turn it into, because it's so lonely when you're writing?
I have ritual aspects to it, but I've kind of gotten over all no, I need to do this and I need to do that and I need to do this. And I never really even had that much anyway. I mean, I write in restaurants to this day. I write in bars. I'll, just take all my junk and go to a coffee house or go to a coffee shop or go to some little bar and then, sit there for 2 or 3 hours and drink some stuff and eat some stuff and lay out all my crap and then just write.
Wow.
And just the fact that I brought all that junk there, I'm going to write something.
Right.
It's not like I'm going to lay out all that junk out on a Denny's table and order some coffee and order eggs over my hammy and then not have something to write. No. It's like I'm going to work. The sheer physical act of bringing all that stuff there makes me put something on the page.
Oh, that's really interesting to me. I figure you lock yourself in a room in your home and it's a special writing room. No, you say you'll go to a restaurant and bring all your junk with you and write.
Yeah. Normally I write at home, but then I got to get the fuck out of here, and then and I break out.
So you don't see the full movie in your head when you're doing that thing, laying in the pool, coming up with what maybe your next idea is. You don't necessarily, when you write that opening scene, you don't necessarily visualize the whole movie. You don't even know where it's going to end up.
Well, I usually think I do. I mean, but also at the same time, look, I think I do. I might be wrong, but also, my movies are almost always genre movies.
Right.
So it's like Inglourious Basterds. Well, I guess it's going to end with the bastards going on a mission to kill Hitler or do whatever there is they're supposed to do, blow up the theater. So I figure the end will be the mission. Right. I figure at the end of Kill Bill, she'll kill Bill. So I have a destination that I'm going to by sheer virtue of the genre that I'm doing.
And then this idea, and I like this, because music inspires the hell out of me.
Yeah.
When I paint, I listen to music and it gets me going. Yeah. You are really tied. You say, and again, this is the process.
Yeah.
I come up with an opening scene and then maybe I'll go and listen to music and find the music for the movie. You haven't even finished it yet. You haven't written it yet. It's like.
No, that actually might even get me to sit down and write it. Once I kind of figure out what's going on and, what I'm digging, then it's like, okay, no, this idea is staying around. This is getting better. This is not, I'm not losing interest in it. I'm gaining interest in it, and I'm coming up with a little bit more and a little bit more. And so then I have a record room in my house. So it's all set up like a used record store, and it's all broken down into bins and everything. And I've been collecting records since I was a kid. And so then I dive into the record room. I dive into what songs, I dive into my soundtrack albums, and I start playing stuff, and I start just trying to find something that would be right for the movie, that will inspire me. And almost like you say about that first scene, if I find the right song for like the opening credit sequence, okay, that's it. Okay,
really?
Now I'm like, okay, I guess I'm making this movie because I want to see that opening credit sequence. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but
so like you're sitting writing Kill Bill and you go, now I'm in my record room. I got an idea where I'm going, but I want my inspiration. You throw some records on, and then when you watch your own movies back, or I don't know if you do, but
yeah, I do.
When you do,
yeah.
When you, why do you watch your own movies back?
I love them.
You love them.
I love my movies. I'm making them for me. That's great. I'm making them for me. Everybody else is invited. All right. Anytime my movies are on, like on TV, I'm like, oh hey, well, I guess now I'm watching Jackie Brown for a while.
I think that's such an honest answer, because you talk to actors. Oh, I never watch anything I do, and or film. No, I can't. It's too painful. No, you like these movies.
I'm not them. I'm very happy with my work.
But at what point, like when you go back and watch Kill Bill, Is there a song that comes to mind that you heard that propelled that movie, that you associate with that movie?
Oh yeah, when I came up with using "Bang Bang," "Bang Bang," he shot me down.
Yeah,
I was like, well, that's just perfect. In fact, I have to make this fucking movie before somebody else wises up and uses this for the opening credit of their song. This is like as if she wrote it for me.
Isn't it weird how that is too? Once you have the idea, you start to panic that someone else is going to have the idea, and no one else is thinking the way you are. I used to rush to get radio things on the air because some other guy's going to do this. Yes, it's amazing like that. No one's doing that.
Well, I worked for quite a few years on the script for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It was just like I'd work on it in between things, not in any super hurry. But one of the producers on Pulp Fiction and on Hateful Eight and Django was a producer named Stacey Scher. And so 4 years before I had finished with it, I'd read her some scenes that I'd written and talked. And but I thought the title Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was so great that I can't talk about that title 4 years or 5 years before advance. So I go, I can't tell you the name of the movie because I don't want to put it out there. I don't even want to say it out loud myself. I don't want to give it even that much. I know what it is, but so she'll just refer to it as magnum opus.
Isn't it weird though? Like you talk about movies like that and you have them in your head for so long. Do people around you in your personal life understand what it takes to write a movie, the type of isolation you need, the type of alone time in your record room you need? Mm-hmm. Do you think, like, even in relationships with women, that you couldn't maintain a relationship with a woman who wouldn't possibly understand how much alone time you need?
Oh, yeah, no. That especially when it comes to what I do. Yeah, no, you can't. A woman who doesn't understand that, she just doesn't understand you.
Right.
And I'm married now, and my wife has created this like wonderful little office for me when I'm in Tel Aviv, and I just go down there and I write, and from time to time I get a little bored there, so it's easy to go down there, and there I am, and I've become incredibly prolific while I'm there. I've done more writing there than I've done in the last 5 years in Los Angeles.
But can you get lost in you? Because you have kids now, right?
Yeah.
So can your wife say to you, Quentin, I understand you need time. You're an artist. You create these things out of nothing. Mm-hmm. Like, you do need to focus more on the kids, and you do need to focus more on me, because I know from this, it's very difficult when you write and create stuff. Mm-hmm. You just need all that alone time. So I imagine that's an additional pressure in your life now.
Well, it's just because I set my own hours, it's the same thing as if I am going to work. However, having said that, playing with my son is one of the greatest things of my life. I mean, it's literally one of the greatest. If I talk about it too much, I'm just going to start crying. All right. Cause I love playing with him so much. And so at some point, she goes, okay, Quentin, get out of your room. Come here. Leo's in the living room. Come over and play with him. Or, hey, it's time to give him a bath. Okay, fine, honey. And
you're okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
anything I'm doing there's nothing I can't get back to. As a matter of fact, that's a trick. That's a writing trick is, actually, I learned it from, what did I learn it from? I learned it from, I think, Ernest Hemingway, from reading Ernest Hemingway's letters, that a writing trick is to not finish your thought.
What do you mean?
Well, you're writing, the temptation is like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, you get to your final thought, boom. And then, okay, now you'll pick it up there the next time. His advice is, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, stop.
Oh.
Stop. Don't finish the thought. You know what the thought is. You're not going to forget it. And then so when you pick it up the next day or 2 days later,
you're writing
again, because you know exactly how to finish the thought. And now by the time you finish the thought, now you're in writing mode.
I can never do that, because once I know where I'm going, I just want to keep going, because I'm paranoid that I'll forget.
Yeah.
But your point is, if it's such a good idea.
I've always had that, even when it comes to, I I don't really keep notes. I don't really super write stuff down that I came up with that much because it's like, if it's a good idea, then of course I'm going to remember it. If I didn't remember it, it couldn't have been that good idea. It couldn't have been that good, yeah.
Oh, my God. I find that fascinating. I mean, I would think, you can forget stuff. And if it's something good.
Of course you can. But if it's gold, I'm not going to forget gold.
Right. But doesn't it consume you for the rest of the day? Like, I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget. This is good. The next time I write.
No. Look, if it's something I'm still working out and I've caught some sort of a wave, that's a whole different story. Sometimes you kind of, catch a wave and you're just riding it. So no, you got to ride that wave all the way into the beach. But if I totally know where I'm going and what the next 4 lines to wrap this up would be, then yeah, fine.
You mentioned you love playing with your son, but immediately what I'm thinking about is, here your name is Tarantino, and yet you never knew your father.
Yeah,
you met him once when you were already a success, and he walked into. I remember you told me you walked into a coffee shop.
Accosted me at a coffee shop. Yeah,
right, and you said, "Fuck you." I mean, I'm not talking to you. You were never in my life.
Yeah,
when you have a father who abandons you. It's heavy duty. I don't make light of that.
Yeah.
And when you have a mother who was your sole support, you probably felt bad for her on many levels. She was abandoned too. Mm-hmm. It leads.
But she left. Clear the record straight. She left him.
Okay, so maybe even your anger with her for leaving.
No. He was good.
Who knows?
I wasn't angry at her for leaving him.
Okay, but whatever the dynamic was. It does leave you hungry for a father,
a male figure, yeah,
sure. And in many ways, your mother wasn't that supportive of your career, as we mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. How did you figure out how to have the capacity to love your son and play with him when no one played with you? Mm-hmm. Sometimes those resentments get in the way. Did you go to some kind of special therapy, or did you talk to someone as you were about to become a parent? Because I think this is really important, especially for people who have traumatized childhoods, which you had. Mm-hmm. And you had anger. And who wouldn't? I'd be angry at a father who never saw me.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm definitely a lot older now. So if I hadn't gotten over some of that stuff, by this point in time, I probably don't deserve to have kids. But it was one of those things where I've always really, really liked kids. And it's one of those things where it's like when I hang around, if you hang around like a couple that have kids and say you're really, they're a couple of your best friends, then you're going to meet a lot of other couples that have kids. And they're going to come over. And I was always really good at playing around with their kids and or even these groups of kids that would come over. And it'd be literally one of those things where all the mothers would get these crushes on me. Because mothers get crushes on adult men that are good with kids.
Right.
And it's like, all the mothers had crushes on me. Like, my goodness, Quentin is so good with Raymond. I can't believe it. Raymond doesn't really like anybody, but he'll sit down and he'll play with Raymond, and it's fantastic. And you hear how Quentin doesn't talk down to Raymond. He talks slightly over his head, but Raymond likes that.
Yeah, no, it's a great way to meet women. I mean, it really truly is.
Hey, look, absolutely. Positively. My wife would not have married me if she didn't think I was like good father material.
Meanwhile, I haven't seen you in so long. I realized now you're married. I mean, a lot has gone down. I heard you were living in Israel, and I'm like, Israel? Quentin Tarantino? What the fuck is going on? Typically, you're doing something I wouldn't expect. But I was talking earlier with Robin, and I said, I never expected Quentin to even get married. Who is this woman that...
At that point, I wasn't expecting to get married either, but yeah. I met the right woman,
Yeah, because, you were, I would assume the reason you never got married is you were completely career consumed, right?
Yeah.
It would have been unhealthy for you to get married.
Well, it was like, we've talked about it before. I remember talking on the show. I'm sorry.
I didn't even know we had a cough button.
We have a cough button. And
right. You don't have the code,
I used it
do you?
after I was done, all right, unfortunately. But we had one of our more interesting talks on the show was I was talking about how in the early 2000s I had baby fever.
Right.
And I really kind of wanted to have a kid. And if it ended up working out, that waitress at the Mexican restaurant, all right, well, I ended up knocking her up. Well, if that's how it's supposed to happen, I guess that's how it's supposed to happen. Kid doesn't give a shit,
Right.
That's the way it's going to be. But then it didn't happen. And then the baby fever broke, after a couple of years.
When you were having baby fever, though, would you go around and have like unprotected sex and say, I don't care what happens, I want a baby?
Well, I was always having unprotected sex, but it wasn't just to have a baby.
You live on the edge, don't you? Yeah.
But the thing is, though, I remember we were talking and you were like, good. But I said the baby fever, good for you. You're lucky.
Have fun. Wow.
Well, and I was like going, yeah, because no, I had shit to do.
Right.
I had shit to do, and I didn't want to. And people would say things like, once you have a baby, it just changes your life completely. I don't want to change my life completely. I have a really fucking great life. I like my life. After you have a kid, everything else you do will be inconsequential. I don't want everything I do to be inconsequential.
You love your life because you realized your dream. You wanted to make movies, and all odds against you and anyone who wants to try that kind of career. It worked out.
And it worked, and it worked out. And it's like, I've been in this, business 30 years and I'm still playing the game at the highest level.
Didn't it scare you at one point? Like when you look at directors, particularly writer directors, I always think there's a window.
Now there is a window.
Like the Beatles had their window, and it's like, most great artists have this window. Did you worry about that? Like, hey, I don't want to age out. I don't want to get too old where I don't relate to an audience anymore. So you felt driven, like, man, now's my time to get these movies done.
Yeah, I remember actually asking, I had just finished the Kill Bill movies, and I remember it was when I was dating Sofia Coppola, and I was talking to her mother, Eleanor Coppola, and I was saying that, Kill Bill was such an epic. I felt like I climbed Mount Everest, but now I don't feel I can do a small mountain now. I feel like to make it worth it to me, everything, if it's okay, I've done Everest, now the next one has to be Fuji, and then one after that needs to be Kilimanjaro. And so I'm describing it to her to hear what she has to say, and she's like, no, these are your mountain climbing years.
Right.
You will not want to climb the mountain at a certain point, but now you have to climb the mountain. These are your mountain climbing years. Right.
Is it a disaster for a director today? You mentioned Sofia Coppola. I forgot about that. But is it a disaster for a director-writer to marry another director or date another director? Is it too competitive in the sense that...
I don't think so. I mean, what we did was so far away from each other. There was no competition or anything like that. And I was also so into what she was doing that I was just, completely supportive. It seemed it's all about people and theoretically having the same job that you don't actually have to share sounds like it would be a good fit. Theoretically.
Yeah, it sounds like it also sounds kind of romantic to me. The two of you go off into your writing rooms and you understand that you're working now.
And two auteurs in love. That sounds pretty great.
Yeah, no, it actually does. I'm just curious. The woman you married, she had to be some spectacular woman who really gets you.
Yeah.
And she's Israeli, right?
Yes,
and she said to you, Quentin, it's important for me to live in Israel for a good amount of the year, and you're cool with that, right?
Well, first off, it was she is absolutely a Tel Avivian. Her family. Her family's very important to her. Her family's in Tel Aviv. She loves Tel Aviv, and the first 3 years of us dating before we got married, I mean, even during the time that we were engaged, she lived in Los Angeles. She was there. She did the work. She did the work. She came out there. Now she would be in LA for 2 months. And then
what did she do? What was her business?
She's a model and a singer.
I see.
Yeah.
And actually, how did you meet her?
Well, I met her many years earlier. I was in Israel for the Inglourious Bastards premiere in Tel Aviv. And so I met her in a club, frankly. And we met in a club, and then we danced all night long. We danced for 3 hours. I mean, I had to throw my shirt away, all right, when it was over, because it was just salt-stained,
right,
like a horse dying, all right, I had to throw it away.
Right.
But the weird part about it is we don't even remember meeting each other. We don't remember that, oh, hi, this is Quentin. Hi, this is Daniela. We don't remember that. We don't really remember almost anything that was said during that night. We just remember holding hands and dancing for 3 hours.
Isn't it sad? Don't you wish you had a film of your first meeting so that you could remember it?
Well, that would be nice, but I like the fact that we were just so blown away by each other that we just remember touching, and that's all we can, as if we were always meant to be together. And so then,
did you know she was the one that night? Did you think to yourself, this might be it?
I had never had that kind of evening before. I had had really good evenings, but never that evening. And she's a fucking knockout. I mean, she's a beauty. And then, and also her father is like the most famous pop singer in Israel, Savika Pick. And so everybody knows who she is. She grew up in the spotlight, so she's like a princess.
Wow.
And so like we got together for dinner, I think, later, and then the next night was the premiere, so she showed up at the premiere.
You invited her?
Yeah, I invited her at the premiere. So we hung out for a little while during the time I was in Israel. Then I had to leave Israel and go to another stop. So I went to Rome, and I'm in Rome for like a day, and then like the next day I call her up and go, "Hey, you want to come to Rome with me? You want to come down here and just hang out?" And she said yes. So she got in. That was a big deal for her to get on an airplane. She didn't really know me that much. So she got on an airplane, and she came down to Rome. And then I go, "You want to go back home with me?" And so she called a friend so she wouldn't just be completely by herself. And she flew to Los Angeles, and we spent 2 weeks together. And at the end, everything was great, but neither of us were ready. Neither of us were ready for the relationship that would be the one.
Really?
Yeah.
Why weren't you ready? I mean, you'd been through a lot in your life.
I wasn't ready to say, okay, that's it. All right. And not that there was that type of decision. It was kind of just didn't seem right for both of us. So it was very friendly, but we just let it drift away. And then she went on and lived her life, and I went on and lived mine. And then,
how do you do that, Quentin? When you meet someone that great, I never understood this as part of being a guy, but you're not ready. Doesn't it drive you crazy that she might meet someone else and that you'll lose her forever? I mean, when you meet someone who you vibe with that great, I mean,
look, I might have been a scared little chicken shit. All right.
Right. Okay.
Oh shit. This is for real. Yeah.
What were you scared of exactly?
I don't know. I don't even know if I was scared, but
something was up.
Yeah, something. Yeah, but she wasn't making a point about it either. It just seemed like it was a fantastic thing, but maybe it had run its course. Maybe it was this, strangers in the night, doobie doobie.
Right.
Maybe it was that, and that can be beautiful too. So maybe that was the case. And so then I end up going on. I get invited on this cruise, and so I go on this cruise. This is like 6 years later. I go on this cruise. And then I meet a woman who's on the cruise who's a family friend of the Picks, which is her name. And she goes, "Oh, hey, I'm a good friend of Daniela." And I go, "Oh, Daniela, she was so great." She was so great, as if she's dead. And so no, I figured like she's moved on. I mean, for all I know, she's probably married. I don't know what the deal is. All right. So I
How many years later is this?
It's like 6 years. 6 years.
Oh my God, that long, huh?
Yeah, 6 years. And so
Wow.
I just say a bunch of nice things, figuring, okay, I'll say a bunch of, Danielle is so wonderful. She was so great. I figure I'll just say a bunch of nice things. This friend will go back home to Tel Aviv. We'll eventually bump into Danielle and say, hey, I bumped into Quentin and he said a bunch of nice things about you. That was the plan.
Right.
That was the plan. Well, she went up into her stateroom and called Daniela.
Oh, wow.
And so then all of a sudden, this friend of the family called me and go, hey, meet me in the coffee shop. And so I met her in the coffee shop, and she goes, so I just got through talking to Daniela, and it turns out she just broke up with her boyfriend.
Mm.
So when you're through with your cruise and you get back home, give Daniela a call.
Wow.
And so I went back home, and I did. I called her. We had a really nice conversation. She was happy to hear from me. And then all of a sudden, next thing I know, we talked about 3 different times, fairly shortly in a row, which is unusual for me. And so we decided, well, let's get together. Let's get together. And no promises. We don't know what's going to happen, but
right.
I'm intrigued enough and I would love to see you. Let's do it. And so we decided, okay, look, you shouldn't have to come to America and I shouldn't have to come to Tel Aviv. So let's meet in Paris. Okay, that's kind of gearing it to work out, all right? Meeting in the city of love.
I like how you're thinking, yeah.
And but we kind of wanted it to work out, and so we both went to Paris, and we've been together ever since.
Wow, isn't that something that you broke up for 6 years, didn't see each other? That's unusual.
And then it's
really is.
Yeah, and then it's like we couldn't be happier. She's a wonderful wife. She's a magnificent mother. She's a beautiful lady. I like getting dressed up, and she gets dressed up, and then we go out to dinner, and we look like a good-looking couple, and it's exciting. It's fantastic. And her whole thing is to create an environment for me to do what I do. And so the thing is, so she didn't abscond to me in Israel. What the idea, our initial idea was, okay, we'll spend 3 months in Tel Aviv and then like 3 months in Los Angeles.
Right.
So I'm there in Tel Aviv. We just had the little boy, and then COVID hit.
Right.
So all of a sudden I was like stuck in Israel for like 8 months. Now, if you're going to be stuck during a pandemic, one of the countries that handled it better than everybody else is not the worst place to be stuck in.
No, not at all.
Having said that, I'm from Los Angeles, and I didn't know I was going to be there that long. And so I was a little climbing the walls at a certain point. So once things kind of loosened up, now we have kind of a situation where it's like, I'll spend 2 months there. Then I go and spend 4 weeks or 6 weeks in Los Angeles. Usually I have some work to do, but also maybe I want to be by myself. I want to be in my old house that I lived in, for 20 years. And she's like, it's fine. It's fine. Wow. Go. I don't want you coming here climbing the walls. I want you to love Israel. I want you to love being here. So, when it's too much, go have your time. Have your time at home at your old house. Go visit some of your friends. Go to some of your old haunts, and then then you start missing us, and then come back. And now you're present, and you're here, and you want to be here.
Funny thing with guys is when a woman gives you that freedom in the relationship to do that, we come running back much sooner, don't we? It's like it's a weird thing. As soon as my wife, I'll say to my wife, I need 5 minutes to myself. It's 1 minute, really.
Yeah,
and
right.
then and then right back following her around. It does work that way. But that's
following her around.
Yeah, right.
You're like the way a cat follows somebody from room to room.
Yeah, I don't want to be by myself. I don't know what to do by myself, But that's really great. Well, I'm really happy for you in that respect. That's fantastic that you found someone and you got kids and all of that. I mean, that is just quite remarkable. Because I don't know why. Do you speak Hebrew when you're in Israel? Is it?
I speak childish Hebrew. I could talk to my son in Hebrew. I'm learning Hebrew with him, so it's like I'm learning. I know a ton of words. I haven't tried to start putting them together in sentences or anything, but he watches like all the baby TV channels and junk, as a toddler. And so like I've learned how to say a bunch of the animal names, right, in Hebrew.
Yeah.
Cow is para, cat is katul, horse is sus.
Maybe your next film will be in Hebrew. You never know.
I doubt it.
But the thing I've heard about, I've never been to Israel, but I hear the food in the restaurants is without exception the best in the world, which shocked me.
It's delicious. The restaurants are fantastic. The food is delicious. In a lot of ways, Tel Aviv especially. Tel Aviv is a lot like Los Angeles. It's just Los Angeles. It was the size of a postage stamp.
Right. That's weird.
The weather is very, very similar. We have the beach there. There's mountains. You go the other direction. But the nightlife, the bars, the restaurants and bars, the fancy restaurants, the nightclubs, they're very, very similar. And, the Israeli restaurants are fantastic. And my wife is a sensational cook.
Wow. Sounds like a good life. I'll tell you that.
I'm a lucky bastard.
Are you recognized in Israel a lot, or is
fuck yeah?
You are,
yeah.
But her father is too, right? Because he's this big singer.
Yeah, he just passed away a little bit ago. All right, but it was complete national mourning. It was a day of mourning for the entire country.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
A week of mourning, yeah.
Talk to me about this collecting, or you said you collect vinyl, which I never understand, but okay, you collect vinyl, but you also, everyone knows you worked in a video store when you were young. But when the video store went out of business, you set up in your house this incredible, it's a video store. You bought all of the videos that they had, and you set it up like a video store in your home. Maybe I understand a little bit the fascination with the vinyl, but why videotape when you could have all these films on digital? Okay. Why would you do that?
Okay, well, so it went out of business. I think in the store went out of business in I can't remember if it was 97 or 98, something like maybe 97 or something. Right. So. When I bought all the video cassettes then, it wasn't some retro thing I was doing. That's what we watched. We watched video cassettes. And so there was nothing wrong with having a big collection of movies that I could afford. It wasn't some nostalgic, retro,
it was the technology of the day.
It was the technology of the day. But also, I had invested so much in that collection. I wasn't going to watch it be sold to Blockbuster for 3 cents on the dollar. I'd invested my 20s into that collection. Do
you think that's what makes you a great director, in the fact that you have, I imagine, a great memory for all of these films that you watched. You watched them over and over again, and now they're ingrained in your head. And maybe to become a master filmmaker, you need to draw on what other directors did, and you need to draw on film references.
I think you're making a little too much of that. It's not so much I'm taking something, but it's just the fact that so much of my early life I was just immersed in film.
Yeah.
I was just immersed in it. Not too dissimilar from somebody who is a good football player and loves football, is like immersed in the game and is immersed in the history of the game.
Yeah, I guess I compare it to painting. The way I learned to paint was I'd look at master paintings and say, how did this guy paint a tree?
Right, exactly.
I don't know how to paint a tree. I don't know how to make a tree come to life on a piece of paper, but here's a guy who did.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And you study that, and then all of
a sudden these 4 strokes gives me a tree. Now what I want to do with that tree after those 4 strokes is up to me.
That's my point. about knowing all these films. The fact that, in the new book, by the way, Quentin's here not for his health, but his book, Cinema Speculation, is available wherever books are sold. You point out perfect films, like films that, like one of the films that comes to mind from the book is Jaws.
Yeah.
Like you said, when you say a film is a perfect film, what does that mean? What's the criteria?
Well, I also say in the book that you're not necessarily looking for perfection in film. Every once in a while, a movie does it, though. Yeah, I don't have a big hard fast rule about that. But Jaws does seem like a perfect film. Look, it's all just taste. But the thing about it, though, is, especially I'm talking about films from the 70s, there does seem to be a collection that are, they seem perfect. And what do I mean by that? Okay, I'm not going to not even talk about the movie. I'll say what makes them perfect is, I think, I can't imagine anybody not thinking they're perfect. They just have an entertainment factor. They have an entertainment factor that almost anybody can relate to. And so I do feel Jaws falls into that category. I do feel Dirty Harry falls in that category, or Annie Hall falls into that
Dirty
category.
Harry, because, as you point out in the book, Dirty Harry changed cop movies.
Yeah.
I mean, you say Bullet changed cop movies, and then you go on to Bullet with Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen was some leading man, right?
Yeah.
He's probably one of those guys you go, gee, I wish I could have worked with him.
Yeah, I would have loved to have worked with him.
Right. But the Dirty Harry, I guess you made a point in the book of saying, we didn't really think of cops in movies. Mm-hmm. Like, until Dirty Harry, when Clint Eastwood became this anti-hero.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, cops were the coolest.
Yeah.
You wanted to be a cop.
Well, Dirty Harry, it was like, I think in the book the deal is, it's like Bullet had to break the back of the cop procedural movie, because back in the late 60s when Bullet comes out, cops were always depressed, and it was always a downer, and their bosses and the other guys that work with them were always a downer, and they dressed like shit. The whole the point was that their suits were dirty and didn't fit. Right. And their crappy raincoats, all right, and they always had some boring mystery that they were trying to solve that no one gave a damn about. They always had the same dissatisfied wife at home. But during the same time, secret agents, oh no, they're the ones that get to be cool. They're the ones that get to dress nice and get the chicks and do this and do that. And same thing with like private detectives. Well, they were allowed to dress better and have nicer cars and go on funner adventures than cops. Yep. And then now you cut to Bullet, and it's Steve McQueen, and he's got a magnificent wardrobe, and he drives this cool Mustang, and his haircut is fantastic. Every pair of jeans he wore has been washed 500 times, before he puts them on. He doesn't have a dissatisfied wife at home. He has a hot piece of ass, and Jacqueline Bisset is his girlfriend.
Yeah, right.
Wakes up in pajamas he could have got from the Hefner mansion.
Yeah, and the point is, after he did that broke the mold, and now every cop movie is that guy. That's it. Exactly,
and that created the kind of the modern cop story, and then Dirty Harry just completely made it put the final nail in the coffin of Westerns. Now, what Westerns had been for all the generations before, now cop movies would be, and Dirty Harry just would, especially his no pity for the, no sympathy for the wicked, stance, became one of the most imitated, characters in international cinema, for the next 20 years.
Is Clint Eastwood a guy you've met because now you're famous and you're a famous director? Like, does that give you access to guys like that? And it's got to be a rush, right?
Oh, it's a very but Eastwood did me a big solid, and he talks about it from time to time, saying that he's proud about it. He was the president of the jury when I won the Palme d'Or for Pulp Fiction.
Oh, wow. What about awards? When when your film gets nominated for 10 awards and you win 2 for screenwriting, and do you, because you're a collector, do you display those Oscars? Do you like, if I walked into Quentin Tarantino's house, would I see those Oscars, or are you like, that's not cool?
Oh, no. I have a whole shelf in my library, but that's not the room that I take people to. All right. We more go in my family room. All right. Yeah. But I do have that. That's kind of fun. What I do though is I have I have my entire filmography kind of worked down by the printed scripts and then the awards, so there's the printed scripts for Reservoir Dogs, and there's whatever awards I won for that. Then there's the printed scripts for the published scripts for Pulp Fiction, and there's all the awards I won for that. And then it just kind of keeps going.
On a shelf. So if I walked into this room, you'd have the finished script. Not the handwritten notes.
No, not the handwritten notes, but like the published script.
Right. Oh, wow. And then I would see the awards for that film.
For whatever that won. Yeah, exactly.
Have you won enough awards? Do you feel you have not gotten the credit from Hollywood? Or do you feel satisfied with the amount of awards you've won?
I feel absolutely satisfied. Look, I think I should have won Best Screenplay for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. All right.
Who won that year?
The Parasite guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I thought I should. I'm not talking. I didn't give a damn about picture. I didn't give a damn about director, but I thought my script was better. I thought I should have won Best Screenplay, and it didn't work out. That would have been a nice record, because I specialized in doing original scripts, and the only person to have won 3 original screenplay Oscars is Woody Allen. So I would have tied with Woody Allen on my thing, what I do, and so that would have been a nice marker. Well, it didn't happen, and I don't think it's going to happen. So too bad. But I've done pretty good.
You won Best Screenplay for Pulp Fiction, and Django Unchained, Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. There are screenplays of yours. Again, I don't remember the years and what you were up against.
Well, anytime I lost, I thought I should have won, all right, as far as screenplay was concerned. It was like the guy from Hurt Locker won Best Screenplay. Inglourious Basterds is a better screenplay than that.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, are you not... Do you sometimes think maybe people have a bias against Quentin Tarantino for some reason? I don't know what the reason would be, but do you kind of sense that?
I don't think so. I think in both cases it was high tide raises all boats. I mean, in both cases, those movies kind of covered the block.
Yeah,
everyone just X'd every box for the Hurt Locker box, and pretty much everyone X'd every box for the Parasite box. I just was wanting screenplay, So I don't think there shouldn't be a bias, for the simple fact that there's only about 4 other people who have ever won 2 original screenplay awards. So I'm in a group of, I think, 4. I'm in a group of 4, and it's like the greatest writers in the history of Hollywood. So that's a good place.
Who's
to be.
in that group? You, Woody Allen,
Woody Allen, Billy Wilder, Patty Chayefsky, and Billy Wilder's partner Charles Brackett, and me.
Patty Chayefsky won for.
I won for Network, and I believe either he won for it was an original screenplay. Yeah, so he won for The Hospital.
Right. You make no mention of Ingmar. You make a fleeting reference to Fellini, and you make no reference to Ingmar Bergman. Are those guys not your cup of tea?
I actually, I've discovered Fellini more or less in the last, I'm not discovered him. I've always known he's been out there, but I actually started giving myself over to Fellini in the last 6 years or so, and I don't care about him once he went to color, but I like his early black and white films.
Amazing.
Yeah. I like his early black and white films. Bergman, I've never really truly I've seen about 4 Bergman movies, but I think also I tried to watch him when I was too young, and I just didn't get it, and I just thought it was boring. I saw Fanny and Alexander when it came out, and it was fine, but it didn't do much
Scenes
for
from
me.
a Marriage? No?
No, I haven't seen Scenes from a Marriage. All right.
Really?
Yeah. But
I'm shocked.
Oddly enough, one of the movies that now's not the time to watch something that I'm happy in my marriage, to watch something like Scenes from a Marriage.
You'll be divorced, you watch that film. Yeah.
But I actually am a fan of a movie of his that everyone shits on, is that English language movie he did with David Carradine and Liv Ullmann, The Serpent's Egg. It's kind of a horror film, and it's a pretty good horror film.
That's kind of your genius, too, which I think you do get credit for, but maybe not enough. I mean, the whole idea that, reviving Travolta, I mean, we've all talked about this. And David Carradine, the guy who played Kung Fu, putting him in Kill Bill, I mean, that really is a stroke of genius. Now, the studio never wanted Travolta. No. That was Harvey, right? Didn't want. Speaking of Harvey, I was thinking about you. It's such a horrible story, of course, but it's gotta suck, because here's a guy who was a great recognizer of your talent, a great believer in your talent, and then Harvey Weinstein we're talking about. He has this whole rape trial, and it's almost inconceivable, right? The guy you knew from this guy, and it's gotta suck, because you want to praise him for being so insightful and understanding your work.
It's sad, it's unfortunate, it's tragic, it's almost Shakespearean in its own weird way. It's like I'm a supporting character in some weird Macbeth meets King Lear story.
Right, yeah. It is weird. It's almost like a great idea for a movie in a weird way. I don't know what movie that would be.
It's like being, he was a devil to everybody, but he liked you.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I don't
that's
think
a great
he was
way
a
to
devil
put it.
to everybody. All
well,
right?
I'm saying, like in a lot of ways.
Well, he actually had a lot of friends. They all scattered like cockroaches.
Rightly so, I guess. I mean, you can't argue with that. When I was with your book, you talk about one of the early movies that you saw that really got you and turned you on to filmmaking, and it's 2 of my favorites: Joe, the movie Joe, and the movie Where's Papa?
Right. Yeah.
That movie, Where's Papa? I went to Boston University for 4 years. That movie played in a movie theater in Boston. For 4 years straight, every day, and the movie theater made money. Where's Papa?
That's good.
Can you believe that?
Those are the days.
Yeah. Does that break your heart that those days are over? I mean, I kind of am nostalgic for the old radio. I would not want to go into radio now, and I bet you say the same thing of directing.
Oh,
you would not want to go into it today. The whole business has changed.
It's unrecognizable.
Right.
What
could you ever have predicted this?
To what we signed up for, yeah.
Right.
And that's a big thing. It's like, whoa. This is not what I signed up for. I'm not here to work for diminishing returns.
Yeah. What's the assessment? I mean, if you're sitting and writing a new movie now, and I know you're always thinking of a movie, you got to be wondering, well, what the fuck do I do with it? Do I stick it on Netflix? Can I put it in theaters? What am I going to do?
Yeah, I'm going to make one more movie, but the thing is, I'm not in any hurry right now to write a screenplay for a motion picture, and because as far as what does that even mean? What is a movie today? Is it just some content on a streaming service?
Right.
Is that what it is? Did I do everything just to do that for my last movie? Now, I don't know what the answer is, and I don't think anybody else does. I think exactly what will happen with movies will remain to be seen. And I would like to know what it is before I do the next one.
When Scorsese came out and he said, I don't think these superhero movies are cinema. I mean, I don't know where you stand with that. I'm curious. I kind of felt like, that's kind of an elitist attitude. I mean, Scorsese's certainly one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. I worship the guy's movies, but I mean, it is cinema. I mean, is it not?
Well, okay. Again, it's like he's an old man. You think Scorsese's going to be into Ant-Man versus the Wasp?
Why not?
But he's not going to be, all right? I don't think he would have been that into that at 37. Forget about however fucking old he is now, all right? That's just not his thing. I mean, even me, when it comes to, I mean, I used to collect Marvel comic books. I loved Marvel comic books. And, if all this shit was coming out in 86, I would be all down with it. They waited till I got too old, all right, for me to be so into it. But I think it's more about the fact, I mean, I ended up talking to a kid just, if you're listening, Brandon, I'm talking about you. I met a kid I'd never met before at a party the other day, and he started a conversation with me. And he asked me about what I felt about superhero movies. And I know this kid is like, I don't know how old he is. Maybe he's 16 or 17. Maybe he's a little older. But, he's talking about how he saw the first Iron Man when he was 4 or 5. Right. So to him, Marvel movies and DC movies are movies.
Right.
And there's been actually almost no competition to show him that there can be anything else. So going to the movies means going to see those movies.
Right.
And if it's not that, it's the Star Wars movies. And if it's not that, it's the Harry Potter movies. And if it's not that, it's the Transformer movies.
So you don't feel any pressure in making another movie where you'd have to do lots of special effects and change your whole style of filmmaking? I mean, you're not going to.
No, if I wanted to do that, I would do that. But I've never really been a big do a bunch of special effects later kind of guy. I almost kind of come from the idea that if you didn't shoot it on the day, it doesn't count.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like, no. We're there with the crew, the actors, everything. What wasn't, we shot it on the day. We sent the film to the lab. It came back. It's done. Now you can do little tiny things, but I'm very about practical effects. No, I work with makeup effects and I work with animatronic effects or whatever. No, I have the K&B. I have the best effects team in the world. And the idea is, no, they're going to create it and we're going to do it on stage. We're going to capture it on film, not give it to a bunch of dweebs to spend 6 months adding it in later.
Could a guy start in porn? I don't mean an actor. I mean, could a guy start directing porn and work his way up as a director, or are you tainted, no pun intended, are you tainted in the business if you work in porn, or is there something to be seen in pornography that could be learned for a director?
Well, okay, I don't even know what porn is other than the shit you watch for 5 minutes and jerk off to, and then that's over. All right. Before, there used to actually be porn movies that had stories and plot
Well, you
lines.
mentioned like Linda Lovelace and you know all these things.
Yeah, and there was like Gerard Damiano, and there was all these like porn directors and stuff. I'm not aware, and if I'm not aware, this probably doesn't happen. All right. I'm not aware of any director that specialized in true XXX porn that was able to graduate into studio filmmaking. But there were a few guys that did porn, who specialized in porn, who were able to make exploitation movies.
Right.
There was a couple of guys like that. Chuck Vincent was a guy who directed a whole lot of porn, and he also did his share of exploitation movies. He did Hollywood Hot Tubs. He did a movie called Summer Camp. He did a movie called like a Saturday Night Live kind of thing called American Tickler. And then there was a guy, Tom DeSimone, who directed gay porn. And he later went on and directed the movie with Candace Ralston when she has the talking pussy, Chatterbox. He later directed Hell Night with Linda Blair, and he directed Reform School Girls with Wendy O. Williams. So he was
right. I remember that.
Yeah, he was a gay porn director, and the guy who actually started gay porn in a big way was a guy named Joe Gage, and he did a film called kind of real famous in that world. Kansas City Trucking Company and El Paso Wrecking Crew and L.A. Tool and Die, and he was sort of like the Russ Meyer of gay porn. Later, I think he went by his real name, which is Tim Kincaid, and he made a whole shitload of movies for Empire Pictures.
Oh wow, yeah, Russ Meyer was a big deal in sort of.
Yeah, but he never did. It was always soft X.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's amazing how much you know about film, and even that.
Okay, but
I guess
Russ Meyer is the one, though. All right, because of his skin flicks, but they were not explicit sex; it was skin flicks. Because of his success, 20th Century Fox brought him to Fox to do Beneath the Valley of the Dolls.
Right, which was pretty good movie, right?
It's fucking a masterpiece.
I love that movie.
It's a great movie, written by Roger Ebert.
And that's right. And what about this guy who you mentioned who started gay porn? I was not aware of him, but he must have been a brave motherfucker because back then, if you did a gay porn,
Joe Gage is a good director. Those movies are actually not bad.
Well, you know what movie you mentioned as a perfect type of movie was Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh yeah.
I was interested in your book that you mentioned Texas Chainsaw Massacre because I think of that as like kind of a hacky movie, but no.
Oh God, I mean to go even further. I think it's maybe the best independent movie of the 70s. Not made for a studio, made by independent financiers. I think it's a masterpiece.
Are you friends with Steven Spielberg?
Yeah, we're very friendly. I haven't seen him in a few years. I feel bad about that, but we're very friendly. We every 3 or 4 years we get together. I'll go over to his house, or we'll go out and have dinner, and then we just talk for hours and hours on end.
Yeah,
I went duck hunting. I went duck hunting with him once.
You're kidding. I can't see you killing a duck and shooting. You shot the duck?
I can't see either one of them out there.
And Steven Spielberg is shooting ducks?
Yeah, it was like, it was actually interesting. It was in 94. I guess it was 95 because it was the Oscars were coming out. And so I think John Mulius had got Steven and Robert Zemeckis into duck hunting. And so, Steven called me up and goes, "Hey, Quentin, how would you like to go duck hunting with me and Bob Zemeckis and John Mulius?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I would love to do that." I'd never been duck hunting before, and
had you fired a gun before? Did you?
Yeah, I had fired a shotgun before, and I'll tell you, and I'll brag about myself in 2 seconds. But let me finish this point. But part of Steven's idea was one. I mean, I was the new kid in town, and they were all really impressed with Pulp Fiction. But one of the things that Steven wanted to do is, look, you and Bob Zemeckis are going to be in competition the whole rest of this year with Forrest Gump and Pulp Fiction. So before that competition starts, maybe it would be nice that we all go off and do something together. So we just kind of keep in mind that, we're all artists and we're all friendly.
What a nice thought. What a nice thing for him to do.
It was very nice. And also, obviously Spielberg's a hero, but John Mulius has always been this incredible hero to me. And so what do you want to do with John Mulius more than shoot ducks with a shotgun? Very little, man. I mean, that's what to do. And then, so Mulius, you have to actually have a license to shoot a duck. All right. You have a hunting license. So I went with Mulius first to go and get my duck stamp. All right. And my license and get the duck stamp for that year. And then he took me to a club, a shooting club, and where they did skeet shooting, the clay things. Clay discs.
Clay pigeons.
Yeah, clay pigeons, yeah. And so I had done that when I was a kid. I had a couple of uncles and a stepfather took me out to do that. And so we didn't do it all the time, but maybe we did it 3 times or 4 times when I was fairly young, mid-age, I guess. And I was never good at anything the first time I did something. My whole thing was always, okay, I'm just going to be an ineffectual fucking idiot. But maybe after I get through humiliating myself, if there's anything there and I like it, maybe I can be a little bit better the next go around and a little bit better the next go around. For whatever reason, I was really good at skeet shooting.
Wow. It's not easy.
Yeah, I was like, I not that I ever thought that I had good hand-eye coordination, but apparently I did when it came to that. I was not the ineffectual idiot that I normally was. It's something I had never done before. I was actually pretty good. I mean, to the point that the adults were like, whoa, look at Quentin, look at that, you know? But I hadn't done it in years. I mean, like decades, a decade at least, 15 years, say, and if not more. So John takes me there, and okay, so here, I want to get you used to using a shotgun, Quentin. This is John Mully is talking. I want to get you used to using a shotgun, and here we go. Okay, so now he's got all his buddies. All of his, gun buddies are there, and they all got cigars and it's cold, so they all have the puffy parkas and stuff.
Yeah.
And, okay, Quentin, so when you're ready, say pull, you know? And I'm like, pull. Boom! I blow it out of the sky. And then John just, the kid's a natural.
That great.
Might have been my proudest moment of my entire life.
Yeah, fuck movies.
John Mullius bragging about me as if I'm his son in front of his cronies. The kid's a natural.
So what happens when you go with Spielberg and the crew to Duck Hunt? I mean, was it everything Zemeckis?
I got a duck.
You did?
Yeah. Did
you feel bad? I don't know. I could never kill a duck. I would feel terrible.
It's an interesting thing. I had a whole conversation with myself before I went. And, I'm going to eat the duck, all right? So,
right. Okay.
So if I have no problem eating a duck in a restaurant, I guess I have no problem. Then I better have no problem killing a duck to eat it, you know?
Right.
But not having done anything like that and being caught up in my own liberal humanism bullshit, I had a whole conversation with myself. Okay. I'll only shoot the duck if I know I can kill it. Right. I don't want to just wound the little fella and now he crashes and the suffering and everything. Right. I had that kind of thought.
Right.
Okay. Cut to, now I'm in the blind and my blood's up and here they come and da-da-da. Okay. 2 hours later, fuck that shit. I'm trying to blow them all out of the sky. I fucking wing one, and I think, okay, well, I didn't bring you down, but you're fucked up, dude. Some fucking wolf's gonna be eating you later tonight, buddy. You got away, but you're not getting far.
Well, Quentin, what a heady trip to be hanging out with those directors and doing manly things with them. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unreal.
And then Spielberg said something that night, that day, said something that I hadn't heard anybody say it quite that way before, and made everything seem a little realer. I knew that when it came to the Oscars for Best Original Screenplay, that I was, we were probably, the most likely ones to win for Pulp Fiction at that time. And Spielberg, a little bit like Warren Beatty, is also he prides himself on understanding the business, understanding how things are going to be, understanding how it goes. And so he's talking to me very pragmatically. So we're walking through a forest or something, and he's just, he's right in front of me, and I'm following behind him. And he's like, so here's what's going to happen at the Oscars. And we haven't even been nominated yet. Okay. It's just going to happen. So here's what's going to happen at the Oscars. I don't think you're going to win the Oscar. I think it's going to be Bob who's going to win Best Picture. And I think it's going to be Bob who's going to win Best Director. In fact, I'm pretty sure of it. But I do think you will win Best Original Screenplay. And then he stopped and then turned around and looked at me and goes, Second movie, Little Gold Man, not too bad. And started walking.
And by the way, that's another nice thing. Kind of like, set your expectations a little bit lower so you're not disappointed. And if you don't get it.
Yeah, you don't get all caught up in this whole, covering the table kind of thing, or how just easy it is to get caught up in a competition of something. But him just saying, second movie, Little Gold Man, not too bad. Just even calling it the Little Gold Man, all right?
Yeah, that's really great.
Was fucking great.
I think you should file that away and use that in a movie.
Yeah.
Did you have a book where you write, like when someone says Little Gold Man, do you say, oh, yeah, that's a good thing to remember. I'm going to put that in.
Oh, that's how I always refer to it, the Little Gold Man.
Oh, that's so funny. But Spielberg, is he, first of all, he sounds like a very generous guy that he would even arrange to have all these people together. But is he the greatest of all time in your estimation as a director, or are you the greatest of all time because you write your films and direct them? You know what I mean?
I do. I do know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. And if he was a contemporary of mine, that would be how I would put myself above him.
Right.
But Spielberg is the only director that does not need to write his own scripts. I think if I think if there was ever one human being in this world that was born to make movies, it's Steven Spielberg.
But when I talk about, like, we know in football, Tom Brady might be the greatest of all time. There's very little debate. Among directors, and it's hard to say. I mean, you might say Coppola because of The Godfather. You don't. I don't feel like.
It's not about one movie. It's as if Spielberg didn't have to. It's almost as if Spielberg didn't have to learn anything. It was like he was born knowing how cinema works. He was born knowing how to direct. He was born knowing how to cut the images together. He was born knowing how to create effects. He was born knowing how to work comedy businesses into his pieces. He was born knowing how to entertain an audience.
Is he a savant? In other words, you're saying that, in other words, there was very little learning process. Some people just know.
Yeah, I think it's just, if I was more religious, I would say, like, he had God's given gift, all right, to go and make movies that he gave Spielberg that he didn't give anybody else. But I'm not religious, so I don't really think that, even though I do kind of think something like that, even though it's not Santa Claus upstairs doing it.
So when you're hanging out with a guy like that, can you talk to him about movies? Can you say to him, listen, I'm wondering how you did this or that? Or is that considered gauche? In other words...
Oh, no, I wouldn't know. I've never had to ask... no, I've never asked him about how he did this effect or that effect. But he's amazing to talk to about movies because I just remember we were having a little conversation, and I was bringing up to him, there's this Marlon Brando movie called The Appaloosa, directed by Stephen J. Fury. And in it, John Saxon is his antagonist in the movie, and John Saxon plays this bandito. The whole movie is them going like this. And I think it's the only movie Brando ever did where another actor stole the movie from Brando.
Right.
In the case of John Saxon. Now, John Saxon absolutely had the role to do it. He had the better role. And he was all set up to steal the movie from him. But nevertheless, he still did it. And so I brought that up to Spielberg. And we're not talking about the most famous movie in the world. All right. And Spielberg goes, yeah, he was really good in that. Except his teeth were too white.
Wow. No kidding.
I was just like, oh man, I want to suck your dick right now. That is just so right. That is just so fucking right on. You deserve a blowjob from me. That is so fucking right on. But I mean, the fact that I could just bring up a random movie from 1968 and then he remembered that detail.
You see, that's my point. Like you, you've got this memory for film that you can draw on that the rest of it, like I love the movie Splash, let's say, but I don't remember what the fuck happened in Splash. I can't tell you, but you could, Spielberg can recall those white teeth.
I brought up the Guns of the Navarone. With Spielberg, he proceeded to do that little speech that James Robert Justice does at the beginning of The Guns of the Navarone. And what was to follow in the next 72 hours will become the legend of Navarone.
You see, there are guys, and you're one of them, that can pull that shit out. And that's why I think you guys are greats at what you do. Could you have put up with a guy like Brando? In the sense that I know when you do a film, you've said, hey, I don't put up with any fucking nonsense. All right, if there's a mechanical error, okay. Yeah. But a human error, I will not put up with. None of the bullshit. When I'm making a movie, I got to get this thing done. I'm on a budget. There's no nonsense on your set. You fired people who fuck around.
Yeah.
Brando was notoriously difficult. Would you have put up with him, or would you say just fuck that? I could not put up with a Brando, as good an actor as he is.
Yeah, I would have had to have a good relationship with him. I would have had to have felt, he wanted to be there. He liked the story, and he liked me. If it was that he's a dick, he doesn't respect you, you got to do this, you can't talk to him, you guys can't stand each other, you're talking through ADs. No, I would have been like Kubrick. Kubrick was the original director on One-Eyed Jacks, and he walked off.
Right, because he doesn't want to put up with it. In other words, you need to have that dialogue with your actors. I would
never put up with any actor like that. I would walk off the picture. I would leave it to the studio to decide who stays, who goes.
In other words, if Travolta had come in on Pulp Fiction and giving you a hard time, you just say, "Listen, dude, I wanted you to do this film, but I can't handle you."
Yeah, no, I would. At a certain, I have no problem firing people. I have absolutely no problem firing people, because it's like, no, we're all here to do this thing with me. You're all part of my team. And if you're not working, if you're not working well with others, if we're not getting along, if you're causing a problem, then you got to go. And
so that's happened to you. You've been making movies.
Not so much with actors. But I'll give you an example. It's like something I don't abide is actors being late. You can't be late. Now, look, from time to time, somebody oversleeps. From time to time, something happens, and so they got their 20 minutes past their call. That can happen from time to time. I understand that. But, but then there's like stories about like Tom Hardy being 2 or 3 hours late getting to set for Fury Road. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard. If an actor was ever like disrespectfully that late, like they're disrespectful of our time, they're disrespectful of our day, and they just kind of show up like whenever they want, they'd probably show up. I would just have gone home.
Right.
I just go home. I'd go home. And I'm not going to sit there and have a big old fight with him. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to call the cops. I'll go home, and I'm not coming back until the head of the studio has called me and told me it will never happen again.
Wow. And thank God you do that, because if I'm an actor who's really abiding by the rules and taking my craft seriously, I don't want to see my director being bossed around by some diva who's going to be late. I mean, you're setting up an environment to make a great film.
Exactly.
And you need everyone on board.
Yeah, and my crew is down with me 100%. I would never let an actor disrespect me and my crew in that type of way. In any kind of way.
Especially for you, because I think you've written the screenplay. Yeah. In other words, you've got too much time invested in this thing. Mm-hmm. You're going all the way back to laying in a pool, coming up with the idea, and racking your brain for this idea.
I know I would win with the studio as well. All right, they're here to do a Quentin Tarantino movie. If they're lucky enough to get a big star, okay, well, that's great. But if the big star doesn't work out, they'd do it with an unknown usually.
Why are directors not allowed to tell actors how to do a scene? In other words, that's like I don't know anything about acting, but I've heard other actors say, if a director comes up to me and starts telling me what to do, I'm done. I'm out. I don't want to hear it.
Well, some actors actually like it, all right? But the thing about it is, you don't say, hey, do it like this, da, 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 da. Or, you want to bring it out of them.
Right.
You want to bring it out of them. So you try to create if you want them to do that, you kind of create the situation where they can do that. And the thing about it is, if you create the right kind of situation and they're comfortable, then either they'll do that or they'll do something you hadn't thought about.
Well, that's like when Jamie Foxx said on Django Unchained, he said, Quentin pulled me aside and said, you're a slave. You can't be walking. That's a famous story, but you kind of gave him
but that's
note.
That's an overall. That's an overall thing. But as far as a given scene. Now, so I'm not going to give actors line readings per se or say, hey, you have to do it this way or that way. At a certain point, if I'm not liking what they're doing, then I can start suggesting this and suggesting that, not giving the entire performance for them. But, they usually respond. They want something. They want feedback, especially the actors that I'm working with. But also I'm lucky. I work with like the greatest actors of my time. But the difference is this, look, there's a lot of funny lines in my stuff. So in that case, I might go to an actor and say, okay, look, the joke is ba-da-da, ba-boom.
You're not getting the joke, maybe.
You need to do the ba-boom. All right. And every actor wants to laugh. They want the laugh. Oh, okay. Oh, I get it. Oh, I see. Oh, I see what you mean now. Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. Right.
I'm still haunted by one thought, that you pitched a Star Trek movie to a studio. You had an idea for one.
Yeah.
And they never made it. I bet it would have been really cool to see you.
They might still. I don't think I'm going to do it, but they still might make it. They wrote a pretty good script. It's a great story. They should do it.
You wrote the script?
No. I came up with the idea.
Oh, I see.
And then we worked it out in a writer's room. All right. Okay. So we worked out the beats. And then the guy who wrote The Revenant went away and wrote the script. And
oh, wow.
I think Paramount should make it. It's a good script. I just decided not to do it, but I think Paramount should do it.
Is it too obvious when I go around, people say to me, what's the best movie ever made? And I go, The Godfather. Mm-hmm. But I really do feel it was a perfect movie.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But is that cliched in your mind to say that? Or
I do think, there's nothing wrong with saying it. It is a little cliche. It's about, but it's like the way that, for 40 years, when people say, what's the greatest movie? They always said Gone with the Wind.
Right.
The Godfather for New Hollywood kind of took Gone with the Wind's spot that Gone with the Wind had since the 30s.
This book you wrote is, it's a great triumph. First of all, I know that you wrote it. In other words, because you're a writer. Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to write this book? Because it is a book of passion. It's really all about your passion for film.
Yeah.
And it kind of answers a lot of the questions about you as a director, what you were thinking at the time. It would seem to me this must have really taken you a long time to flesh out and put this thing together. It's no joke.
Well, I've been wanting to write a cinema book for about 12 years. So maybe I started writing another one a while ago, and then that didn't quite work out, then worked on another one a while ago, and that didn't work out. And there's probably a couple of pieces from some of those earlier attempts that found their way into this. But as far as once I kind of figured out what I'm doing, as far as this one is concerned, it was about 2 years.
Wow. And you want to be careful when you write a cinema book, too, because not everyone is as knowledgeable about cinema.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, it's like, look, I grew up reading cinema books. And so if I'm reading Andrew Sarris's American Cinema, because I rent it from the the junior high school library in the school. I take Andrew Sarris's book home. So when I'm reading that at 13, he's completely talking over my head. I don't know what mise en scène means, and he's describing the oeuvre of Joseph von Sternberg versus this versus that. He's totally talking above my head. But the thing about it is, when I read cinema books when I was younger, I expected the person to know more than me. That's why I'm fucking reading the book.
Yeah, no, but people do want to know your opinion because, let's face it, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You've proven it. It is amazing, the career that you've had. I mean, do you pinch yourself sometimes because, if you put out one good movie or two good movies, all right, well, good for you. You know how many bands put out one good song and they never can capture the magic again. Did you become superstitious in ways throughout your life? Did you start to think, oh, fuck, what's the magic? Maybe because I wore a pair of red socks or I brushed my teeth on the right side of my mouth first. Did you start to get so crazy about your career and climbing each mountain, so to speak?
No, I was never. I mean, look, I've been very, my interest has been in the individual movies and the filmography as a whole. And
were you consumed by box office? Were you like,
No, I wasn't consumed by box office, but like when Grindhouse didn't do well, that was that kicked me in the balls a little bit, because I'd kind of gotten used to forging my own road and taking my audience with me. And then that was kind of a wake-up call. They were like, we're not going to go everywhere with you. All right, we have to...
In other words, you can get mad at your audience and say, guys, you always came with me no matter where I went, and now you're not coming with me. But did you ever figure out why they didn't come with you on that one?
It was just way too obscure. It was just way too obscure for them. If we had made it as a much smaller project...
Right.
That could have it would have cost much less, and then only a handful could had to go with us. That would have been fine. But me and Robert were just very full of ourselves. We were very happy with the movie, but we were just very full of ourselves, and people just didn't get it.
Did you ever have an idea for a film that you never made? In other words, is there some idea floating around in Quentin Tarantino's head that it's good, but for some reason you never sat down and wrote it? Is there a plot line or something?
No, there's probably nothing that's immediately coming to mind right now. But I'm sure that there's definitely some little plot lines, but that almost doesn't count because I need to start really working on something. Anybody can have a plot line idea.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The book's great. I love what you wrote about Deliverance and Taxi Driver.
So Deliverance is my favorite of the film pieces in the book, actually.
Boy, what Deliverance is such a fucking monumental film, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, wow. When Ned Beatty, I mean, everyone knows when Ned Beatty gets humiliated, as you point out.
Yeah, right on. Yeah.
And you were a kid when you saw it, and you make the point.
Yeah,
you say, hey, I didn't know Ned Beatty was getting raped. Did
I know a dick was going in an ass? No, I didn't know that. All right.
No.
But I knew he was being humiliated, and I was right. He was.
Yeah. What a dark film. Oh, my God. And Taxi Driver, maybe that was De Niro's best performance. I don't know.
So. I think so.
You do?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Well,
that's why I love the book.
Yes. I loved, I fell in love with Robert De Niro when I saw Taxi Driver, right? Mm-hmm. And then I fell in love with him again in Jackie Brown.
Oh, right on.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, my God. Right. Oh, my God. And you do that. Mm-hmm. That's what I love about Quentin's movies. You get surprised by what these people you think you know can do.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And that is, again, what happened in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Brad Pitt and Leo DiCaprio. Because first you remember that amazing character that DiCaprio does in Django Unchained.
Yeah.
And he's using all of his Hollywood bravado to bring that off. Mm-hmm. And then he's this insecure mess.
I like
Once
that you.
Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I like you made the.
Wow.
I love you made the point about Harvey Keitel in Taxi Driver that Harvey was a white pimp.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
like, you know, and originally it was written for a black guy.
Yeah. Now,
And
okay, by the way, I am critical of that, but I'm critical about the process of why they changed it to a white pimp. I'm not necessarily critical of the result. Because Taxi Driver without Harvey Keitel, what the fuck would that even be?
Right.
Harvey Slade,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he killed it.
Yeah. That's the truth. That's a great book. I congratulate you. Quentin's book.
And by the way, thanks, Robin. That was really nice what you said. Thanks a lot.
Oh, no, that's, I'm in awe, because I'll see things that I never expect in your films.
Oh, thanks a lot.
It's always a surprise and a pleasant one.
You know what? One last question before I let you out of here after 17 hours of interviewing you. But how is your relationship with Brad Pitt? I remember when you came on our show and you told that great story about going to see Brad Pitt and you guys got high together. And then like that was news made everywhere. Remember? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Was he angry with you after that or was he cool with it?
Well, I think actually, Brad thinks I'm a blabbermouth, all right, about that, and I'm actually not a blabbermouth. I wasn't going to talk about that, but he made some reference to it at the, I believe it was the Cannes Film Festival a press conference. So he made some reference to it. So I thought it was okay to talk about. I think he forgot he made the reference, so he thinks I'm just a big mouth.
Yeah. I mean, it really was no big deal. So you smoke some weed.
No, it's not a big deal at all, especially now. It's really not a big deal, but it wasn't a big deal then, yeah.
No. I remember. I felt awful, too, because I know, you were like, oh, shit, this is... I was surprised it was making such big news, honestly.
Well, but that's just the way it is. It's almost like, oh, okay, what did we say here today that will, be...
right.
That will be taken out of context, and there'll be like 1,000 parasitic articles,
you
from
didn't do anything wrong.
IndieWire to the fucking Times of India.
Well, listen, the fact that you're going to give Steven Spielberg a blowjob is probably already up on Daily Mail. I mean,
That's the next headline.
I didn't say I would. I said
ducks.
I could.
Oh, I see. Good thing you clarified, because you blowing Steven Spielberg, that's a movie.
That's news.
That's big news.
That's news.
And as far as Brad Pitt goes, you did get him a Best Supporting Actor award for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
No, we've got a very, very good relationship.
You patched it up.
No, it was never a patch. There was nothing to patch.
Didn't need a patch. Didn't need a patch.
Right.
Yeah, I think he just thinks in my mind, okay, fucking guy.
Who is the greatest actor you ever worked with in one of your films? Put you on the spot.
Nah,
Come
I'm
on,
not good.
give me a name.
I've worked with too many actors.
Who turned you on so much? He said, Jesus Christ, this is the greatest experience. The guy's a pro, or this woman's a pro, knows her lines, comes in on time, and delivers this character better than what I imagined in my head.
Well, hopefully they all do that. All right. The idea is, supposedly they're going to bring something that even I couldn't have imagined.
That's right.
And then it's my job to create an environment so that can happen.
Who is the actor that does that for you?
Well, okay, I'm not going to say this actor is better at that than anybody else, or this actress is better at that than anybody else. But I will sort of kind of answer what you're saying in a less ba-boom kind of way. Because I'll just think what came to my mind first when you said that. So I'll say, I don't know if it's the most, but it's the first thing that came to my mind when you said that. As far as doing one scene, watching an actor do one scene that I was shocked at how riveted I was one of the takes we did in Django Unchained, where we're kind of around the dinner table and that whole little battle of wills is going on at the dinner table, and Leo is playing Calvin Candy. I've always made it a point to like my villains. I've always liked my villains. They all have their reasons, you know, and I always have a lot of affection for my villains. Calvin Candy was the one villain that I wrote that I didn't have affection for. I thought he was a fucking
monster,
cretin, yeah, and a monster, and I couldn't even believe that Leo wanted to play the guy, and because I thought he was literally, to excuse the expression, black and white. But Leo just committed 110% to the character. So we're doing that scene, and he's doing one of his takes, and he's doing a talk. And all of a sudden, as I'm watching the scene, I was able to see the world from Calvin Candy's perspective. And I was watching it, and I was like, well, of course he is the way he is. He never had a fucking chance. This is the world he was born into. He never had a fucking chance. It's like, you know, he comes from, he's the son of a plantation, he's the son of a plantation owner who's been surrounded by slaves his whole life. And his father has been surrounded by slaves his own life. It's like, can you blame a Borgia for being a Borgia? Well, the answer is yes, you can, but it's still a question. It's a question. And he made me realize that, oh, wow, I mean, Calvin Candy really never had a fucking chance.
Wow. So in other words, Leonardo DiCaprio is so good that he even found a way for you to like your villain.
He captured the humanity of the guy trapped in this inhuman situation.
He's some actor. He is something. Could you make Django Unchained today? I don't even think you could.
Yeah, I could.
You think you could?
If I wrote Django Unchained, it's not like all the studios are going to say no.
I don't know. The political correctness now.
Yeah,
is
but they're not going to say no.
No?
No, they just know. Well, Django Unchained came out. Not only was it a big smash, no, we had bad think pieces, but bad think pieces are actually good. That means your movie's about something. That means that they're having a conversation about your movie. That means that you're part of the zeitgeist. Now, you have to have the balls and the shoulders, all right, to handle those bad think pieces. And there's usually good reviews that go along with it, and usually some positive think pieces that come out, but that's a conversation. And now when it's over, no one remembers those fucking pieces, but they remember the conversation.
Right. All right, here's a headline. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
You're on a boat. You're on with Christoph Waltz and Samuel L. Jackson.
Uh-huh.
The boat springs a leak. We got to save you because you're a great director. One of those guys has to get off the boat in order to survive. Who do you save and who do you kill? Samuel L. Jackson or Christoph Waltz? Now you'll make a headline. Go ahead. I love both those guys.
Yeah, well, I love both of them too.
But you got to save one.
I can definitely tell you Christoph Waltz will be the less cantankerous lifeboat companion.
Right. So you would get along better with Christoph than Samuel.
I'm not saying who I would save or not, but I can tell you who I would rather be in the lifeboat with.
All right. Gotcha. So here's the People's headline. Quentin Tarantino makes news again. He would kill Samuel Jackson and keep Christoph Waltz alive.
He sent Sam Jackson at Davy Jones's locker.
The book, you got to check it out. Quentin's book. If you love this kind of conversation and you like hearing from the master himself, he's the guy who knows. Cinema Speculation is available wherever books are sold, and he goes into great depth about film and, all his own film. I mean, there's a lot to untangle there. I could interview you for another 9 hours.
And Howard, I was very impressed. It does sound like you read some of the book. That was very impressive.
I haven't finished yet either, and I am enjoying it. And Quentin's The Video Archives podcast is on Stitcher or the SiriusXM app, where he goes into a lot of stuff about film. And there's so many films we didn't even talk about. We didn't talk about Jackie Brown. We didn't talk. We skimmed.
What are you going to do? We skimmed Jackie Brown.
We skimmed it. We kind of got there, but And now he's Jewish. He lives in Israel. He speaks Hebrew.
It's like a maze.
I didn't convert.
Are you going to convert?
I didn't.
Are you going to convert?
No, I'm not going to convert.
Why not become Jewish?
Well,
you would be a great Jewish man.
People will say I'm already turning Jewish. All right, you know.
Do you
but
celebrate?
I'm not converting.
Let me find out your level of Jewishness.
I'm gonna, I'm going to join another religion that I don't believe in? No.
Well, you know what's funny? I have a friend who's Italian, and he married a Jewish woman. Mm-hmm. And we always kid. I go, wow. I go, Pat, you're more Jewish than I am, because he celebrates Passover. And does Quentin Tarantino celebrate Simchas Torah or any of the more obscure Sukkot? Do you celebrate any of the obscure Jewish holidays?
Well, I don't celebrate them, but I recognize them in Israel because everything stops. All right, during those during those holidays.
You had to circumcise your son, I assume.
Yeah, but I'm circumcised anyway, so I don't even think that's
everybody knows that. Yeah. That's not.
but there's some things that I really like. I like Shabbat dinner.
Right, it's a great tradition.
Yeah, I mean, I don't recognize Shabbat as, I'm not going to go anywhere or do anything. All right, but I love the idea of a Shabbat dinner, and you get together with your family and have dinner. That would be lovely if we could keep that going with the kids when they're like, teenagers, if they still come down to the parents' house on Friday and have dinner with us. That would be a dream.
Are you going to raise the kids Jewish?
Well, they're raised to be. They're going to be raised for sure in the Jewish tradition. But no, we celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah. There'll be a Hanukkah menorah in the house, and maybe a Hanukkah bush, but definitely a Christmas tree as well.
Will there be a bar mitzvah for your son?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, we know that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd want to do bar mitzvahs for my kid, even if I wasn't married to an Israeli. Those are cool.
Well, listen, for those of you who don't know this, throughout the interview, Quentin has been eating pickled herring and gefilte fish. This is how Jewish he's become, which is so great. Listen, you've said it all, and you've done it all now with your book. And who knows what else, and who knows when I'll see you again.
But wait a minute. There's one thing, because, Steven Spielberg has made more than 10 films, right?
Yes.
That's true.
You're still sticking to the 10?
Yes. For a lot of the reasons that Howard planned it earlier about, they're a little old now, they're a little out of touch, they're a little this. That happens to so many directors. Well, it's not going to happen to me.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Well, I understand that.
Would you do something else, though?
I could absolutely do something. Look, I could do a TV show. That's a different story. I could do. I could write and direct a play. That's a different story.
I could see you doing one of these series, like coming up with a story and doing like a 10-episode thing. I don't know what it'd be.
No,
I could see
that. That doesn't count. That's a different.
Okay.
That's something different. Yeah.
Quentin, who are the best who are the top 5 musicians? Because you're so musically oriented and you get a lot of your movie ideas from the music, who are your top 5 musicians? If you had to pull out your vinyl right now, who are the top 5?
Oh, wow. That's kind of tough.
Who do you listen to the most?
Well, I guess my favorite singer-songwriter is Bob Dylan. I think so. It starts with Bob Dylan. And then but then, I also...
Did you ever try to put a Bob Dylan song in your movies?
No, I never have. Nothing seemed... if I was going to do that, it would have to be right, and nothing just really ever presented itself that way. I guess, literally off the top of my head, I guess it would be Bob Dylan, Johnny Cash, Stevie Wonder... and so I really like the rockabilly guys. All right, so either Sun Records, Elvis, or Eddie Cochran, or somebody like that.
No Beatles, no Stones. Interesting.
No Beatles.
Wow.
Nope.
Well, you're in big trouble because I asked you as a trick question. The headline is Quentin Tarantino does not pick his own father-in-law. It's his pick as a top singer. It's going to be headlines.
He's actually terrific, but I did not grow up with his music.
Understood. Well, listen, Quentin, thank you for being so generous with your time. Everyone was really looking forward to you coming in.
Oh, I was so happy to come. I was so happy to be here with you guys again. And I don't know why it hadn't worked out before, but I'm glad it worked out this time.
I'm glad you're here. Thank you. And you know what I always say about Quentin, the most successful video store clerk of all time. Of all time. There's not one that I know one guy who came close, but not as big as Quentin Tarantino. Quentin's book, Cinema Speculation. It's available wherever books are sold. And here Quentin's The Video Archives podcast on Stitcher or the SiriusXM app. Thanks. Great seeing you, Quentin.
Hey,
Thanks
great
for
seeing you
doing this.
too. And you too,
Real
Robin.
good.
Thanks a bunch.
It's a pleasure always.
You know, she loves you, man. You could have, there could have been something there, but you...
I snoozed, easily. I loosed.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Quentin, thanks.
Bye-bye, guys.
Later. Bye. Quentin Tarantino. He's probably got to go pish. I kept him locked up for 2 hours talking about film. And there's a guy who knows what he's talking about.
That was a great conversation about making movies.
Yeah, well, you and I, we're too busy to make movies. You're busy fasting, and I'm busy staring at a wall. So what can you do? We made one movie. At least we made one.
Yes, we did that. Got that out of the way. We haven't cured any illnesses. We keep saying we're going to cure something.
I haven't seen any mention of private parts in that book so far, but I haven't finished it yet, so we'll see. Tomorrow, Neil Young will be with us, Sunday, November 27th, 10 p.m., the Howard Stern interview, Bruce Springsteen on HBO and HBO Max. And it is so great. Thank you, Quid. Oh, shit, I'm trying to get out of here. Yeah. Oh, it's George Lucas, the famous director of Star Wars. Hey, George, how are you?
It was an excellent interview, Howard. I just wanted to say, I heard that Quentin was, quite enamored with Steven Spielberg, but did you ask him anything about Star Wars? Maybe he'd be interested in slobbering all over my lightsaber,
Oh, you want a blowjob? Well, listen, he said he'd blow, we almost considered blowing Steven Spielberg.
Well, he said he owed him one anyway.
Hey, there you go. All right. Thank you.
I just trimmed my balls with R2-D2.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.